Prepare to be astonished.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Marty Monologue. Kind of like the Vagina Monologues, but with a real dick. And as I get my dial pad pulled out and get that number pounded in there, we hit dial, and we're pounding it in. Reaching out to Mr. Marty Wombacher, creator of the wildly popular blog, meanwhileBackInPeoria.com. Check it out.
Well, that's quite a build-up there.
Ain't it, my man? How would you think?
I don't know if I can live up to that or not.
Well, give it your all, my man.
Okay, you ready? What do I got, about 10 minutes?
Well, hey, however long you want, Marty.
Okay. You ready for me to start?
Absolutely.
Start it up.
Lay it on us, brother.
Okay, here's the first monologue that I'm going to do for you guys. I want to say before I started that this isn't scripted. I've been kind of practicing it all day. I didn't want to read it off of paper, so it's off the top of my head. So if I fuck it up, we'll try it again next week. But anyway.
There we go.
Here we go. My first monologue for the Big Perm Show, and the title of this monologue is called The Rules of Ketchup. Okay, there's just two fundamental basic rules of ketchup that I want to talk about, and then I'm going to go into a couple other things. The very first rule of ketchup is this. There's only one ketchup, and that ketchup is Heinz tomato ketchup. There is no substitute. There's nothing else. That's all there is. All that other shit that you see in bottles, you don't want to eat that. That's not ketchup. The only ketchup is Heinz. And that leads us to rule number 2. Okay, rule number 2 is this. Hunts. That shit is not ketchup. You don't want to eat it. I know it says ketchup on the label. I know it comes in a red ketchup bottle, but that shit is not ketchup. Trust me, it's evil. I've never tried it. I never will, because it's not ketchup. It claims it is. It's an imposter. It's evil. You should fear it, and you shouldn't go near it. And that leads me to a story when I was a kid. Growing up, this is why I have specific ketchup rules. When I was growing up, we were like a real ketchup-orientated family, and we're specific that the only thing we would ever eat is Heinz. This was kind of drilled into me by my parents. And that's all we had at home. I mean, if, God forbid, we couldn't afford ketchup, we wouldn't have bought the cheap stuff. We just wouldn't have had ketchup. We were loyal to Heinz that way. Well, from 1963 to 1969, we lived in Louisville, Kentucky. And I went to a grade school called Holy Trinity, a nice Catholic grade school where the nuns would beat the shit out of you twice daily. But that's another monologue. I think I was in the 4th grade, and my best friend was Pat King. And I had never spent the night at another kid's house. It was just in the 4th grade, but we got to be really good friends. He's like, hey, you want to spend the night at my house? And I thought that would be kind of cool, so I asked my parents, I'm like, could I spend the night at Pat King's house? And they said, well, sure, it's fine. And so on a Friday, I packed a little bag, went to school. He lived close by the school, so after school, we went over to his house, and I remember we played basketball and watched TV. I could draw as a kid. My older brother Jim taught me how to draw, so kids thought that was kind of cool. So I remember I taught him how to draw a little cartoon, and it was just a good childhood memory up to a certain point. We were upstairs in his room drawing, and his mom called us down. Said, kids, time for dinner. So we went down, and as we walked towards the kitchen table, there's Mr. and Mrs. King and his sister there. I can't think of her name, so we'll call her Susie. Well, anyway, there are all the Kings around the kitchen table. I kind of stop in my tracks, because as I look at the table, there's a big bottle standing attention there of Hunt's. And you'll notice I didn't say Hunt's ketchup, because you got to remember that second rule. Hunt's, that shit is not ketchup. And I kind of froze in my tracks, and I remember Mrs. King kind of saying, Marty, what's the matter? You don't look good. And I just said, I don't feel good all of a sudden. My stomach hurts, and I just want to go home. And things went back and forth. Pat was a little upset because I wanted to leave. And anyway, they called my parents' house. My dad came and got me, and we left the house, got in the car, and kind of sat there. And he knew I wasn't really sick. He's my dad. He'd seen me really sick. And he's like, what's going on? Why didn't you want to stay there? I just looked at him, our eyes locked, and I only had to say one word, and that word was Hunt's. And he totally understood. So we drove home, and he made me some French fries. I poured Heinz ketchup all over them, and everything was good again. And I just never went to the King's family house again, and really never hung out with Pat King much again because, you know, just like friends don't let friends drive drunk, well, friends don't let friends eat Hunts. And if you do, I really don't want anything to do with you. And that's one of the reasons I've stayed loyal to Hunts and why I've got the specific rule about ketchup. And another ketchup-related story that I've got is, this is about 2 years ago, you know, Hidden Valley Ranch dressing? Oh, yeah. You've heard of that. Okay, they came out with an ad campaign, and this blew my mind. I saw it online somewhere. Their whole ad campaign was based on this headline or whatever you want to call it, but it said, Hidden Valley Ranch, the new ketchup. And at first I'm like, well, are they trying to make a ketchup, or what are they talking about? Then as I read the ad, it was like they wanted people to use Hidden Valley Ranch instead of ketchup. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this? And I really pissed me off. A, because I do have this rule of the only ketchup is Heinz, but at least try and look like a ketchup or, you know, be red, make a little effort. Don't just say, okay, now we're ketchup. It's like a Tabasco sauce saying, okay, we're going to be mustard now, and use us for this. And it just did not make sense, and it really pissed me off. I mean, I don't like any kind of white, creamy condiments. I don't want to put that shit on my sandwich because basically it looks like somebody just jerked off all over your sandwich, and I don't want to put that stuff in my mouth.
Kind of.
So I don't eat, you know, Hidden Valley Ranch, and I definitely would not put it on a sandwich. I would not put it on French fries, but that was the whole crux of their advertising campaign. So I wrote a blog about it. This is back when I was doing another blog called Tripping with Marty. So I wrote kind of a angry, tongue-in-cheek blog, kind of like this, but it got some comments, and I just basically said, you should always stick with Heinz ketchup. And I got a comment from somebody saying, and this is when this was kind of at its height, I think. I think it's kind of died down, maybe not, I don't know. But somebody said, oh, I don't eat Heinz ketchup because it's got high fructose corn syrup in it. And now I know there is some shit going on about high fructose corn syrup, but to be perfectly honest, I don't know what the fuck high fructose corn syrup is. I really don't. And I'm somebody that through the years has put so many drugs, alcohol, and poisons into my system, and I'm still alive. So if you think I'm afraid of high fructose corn syrup, you're out of your fucking mind. I mean, I'll drink a whole jug of that shit and then be on my merry way. So I don't really care if it's in Heinz ketchup. I'm going to keep eating Heinz ketchup. And the final thought about ketchup that I have is, as I've grown older, and I think most people grow older, your taste for ketchup kind of changes. I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, I would put ketchup on everything.
Oh, yeah.
As I got older, it changed, especially like, I don't know, the last 20 years, I've found I use a lot more mustard on sandwich-type stuff. I use ketchup still mainly for, like, potato-type items, like French fries, tater tots, maybe onion rings, fried stuff. I don't put it on a lot of meat-type things, but if you want to do that, fine, go ahead. But again, this is just another sub-ketchup rule to throw into this mix. Because there is one food item that ketchup, once you're over 16, I should say, ketchup just doesn't belong on. You shouldn't do it, and you should really almost get into trouble for doing it. You should not put ketchup on a hot dog. It just doesn't belong there. It looks sickening. I would really just like to shove it up the ass the next time I see somebody doing it. There's really just 4 things that I believe belong on a hot dog, and that's mustard, onions, cheese, and chili in any kind of a combination. And don't get me going on the Chicago dog, the way that they put a whole, like, salad bar on top of a hot dog. Yeah. I don't know how you'd even eat one of those. I don't even know how you'd eat one of those things. Those things blow my mind. Again, that's another monologue. That, as I said, chili belongs on them, but you do not. Another thing, beans don't belong in chili, especially on chili on top of a hot dog. It's just something you shouldn't do. So that's the only thing that belongs on hot dogs. So I guess to sum everything up, the rule number 1 is there's only one ketchup. That ketchup is Heinz. And the most important rule is Hunt's. that shit is not ketchup. And I'm Marty, and that's my monologue.
Marty, I had
Well,
no
Marty,
idea you were such a ketchup elitist.
I am. You can go back and find that blog that I wrote about Hidden Valley, because that really pissed me off. I'm not really an elitist, because there's nothing to be an elitist about, because there's just one ketchup, and that ketchup is Heinz. So there's a really...
Say that you're a ketchup guy and not a catsup guy.
Again, I was going to bring that up. I heard you say that, but I didn't really have that into my monologue that I've been practicing all day. I would like to just tear the tongue out of anybody that says catsup. And it's funny, because I was listening to the Robbins and Markley show last week. I might even call in and ask them this. I could swear Scott Robbins said catsup.
God damn it.
I was driving to work in my car, and I did. It pissed me off. I'm like, fuck, I hate that word, catsup.
Potato, man.
That didn't even go there with me on that, because no, catsup should not be said. Like I say, you should have your tongue pulled out of your head if you say that. In seriousness. I don't know, outside of Scott Robinson, maybe that was wrong. I mean, I know Scott a long time ago. I met him, and maybe it was just a slip up. I did. I almost pulled over and called into the station to say, did he just say fucking ketchup? What kind of person is he?
Oh, goodness. Well, listen, Marty, the first installment of the Marty Monologues has been stellar, epic.
Oh, thank you.
And we totally appreciate you taking the time to be a part of the show tonight, my man.
And I'm happy to do it. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, man. I figured, heck, it's another platform for Marty, and it adds a little entertainment to our show. Everybody wins, and our listeners are the biggest winners.
Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Well, Marty, for myself and Vic Nasty, we want to say thanks again for taking the time to join us. And as we send you on down the road, we give you the heavenly music.
All right.
Thanks again, Marty. You do well, my man, and have yourself a great night off.
Marty.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll see you guys next week.
Right on, butter. Take care.
All right, thanks. Bye.
And once again, the Marty Monologues with Marty Wombacher. Kind of like the Vagina Monologues, but with a real dick. Every Sunday night at 9:30 right here on the Big Perm Show.